Hey fiber friends, welcome to the 4knitsakes channel. My name is Allison and I am coming to you from El Paso, Texas, where I live with my husband Jonathan, my two sons Levi and Oliver, and our fur baby Lucy, who just turned 8 years old last week. I'm fitting in probably a fairly short podcast because tomorrow is moving day. If you've watched any of my previous episodes, you have seen that our landlords decided to not renew our lease because they want to sell the property. So we have to move and we have to be out by the end of the month. So we start moving tomorrow and hopefully we'll be all moved in before the end of the week. But I did not want to wait to podcast it would have ended up being something like 3 weeks. So I decided to do a short little video so you guys don't miss me, I guess. So I have a couple finished objects, one that I'm wearing, and a couple works in progress, and some life stuff that I'll share at the end, and just kind of knitting stuff in general. If you are a first-time watcher for the podcast, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you coming to check me out. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. It's always so nice to chat with you guys every single week. I don't think my family really quite understands why I enjoy doing this, but it's also nice to kind of have a video log of things I've done over the last year. I've been podcasting since January of 2017. I think I've probably passed my 1-year podiversary, but I'm not really sure if I have or not. I didn't write down the date that I recorded my first podcast, so it's kind of up in the air on when that date actually was. I can go back and look on YouTube, I guess. So thanks again for stopping by. I hope you guys like what you see, and like and subscribe if you wish. And we will hop into our 300 writing prompts because I found the book while I was packing, which if you're only moving a mile down the street, packing involves filling up any and all free tote bags that you can find, including the reusable grocery bags, boxes. These are our dresser drawers sitting over here, so we can move the dressers more easily starting this week. Hopefully on Tuesday, I think we'll get those moved. So right now the first floor is just full of containers and reusable grocery bags just filled with books and toys, and all my knitting stuff is downstairs. I just kept enough out to podcast for today. So for 2018, our first writing prompt is, list a few phobias you have. When and how did you discover you had these fears? Now, my main fear that my husband constantly makes fun of me for is a fear of spiders, arachnophobia, and I am scared of spiders because I watched the 1990 movie Arachnophobia when I was a kid. Now, I was only born in '86, so I don't know what I was doing watching this movie when I was a child, since it came out when I was 4, but I watched it and now I'm terrified of spiders. I've gotten to the point I can handle little spiders, but big spiders or black widows, no thank you. My hair's doing something funny. I got a $12 haircut the other day, so that's positive, especially since it's down the street. I don't think it looks like a $12 haircut. I didn't style it, I just blow dried it, so then this kind of sticks out a bit, but that has nothing to do with knitting. So I forgot in my New Year's video to share my 2017 stats because I was logging all of my yardage. So a part of my notebook are all of my projects that I've done, and I'll weigh out my projects and do the math to figure out how many yards I used in a project. Because Ravelry does it, but they do it based on what you put in for your project. So you would still have to weigh it because not all projects take full skeins, obviously. So for the end of 2017, I knit or crocheted 28,372 yards. That equals 16.1 miles. I did 5 garments, 12 hats, 5, 10, 15, 19 and a half socks, because I did the one color work sock and I never did the other half. Now out of those 19 socks, 5 of them were for children. So take that with a grain of salt when the total of 19. Neck accessories, which are cowls and scarves, 6. and shawls would be 10, and I gifted a few of those this year that I finished, including my 3 pips, and then the shawl I made for my grandmother, and now I can't remember the name of it. I don't remember. I have something in my eye. It's gonna bother me. I did 9 blankets, all for Project Linus, except maybe 1. They might have all been for Project Linus. And then 6, I put them under etc. Like I did the sheep stuffies, and I did the tote folded bag. So I think when I added everything up, it comes out to 68 projects. Let's do a quick adding. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 65, 66, 68 total projects between crocheting and knit and all the things that I just listed. So I think I'm slowing down this year. I will admit I probably used knitting to deal with my anxiety / depression. When we moved to El Paso, I was very, very sad to leave Germany. We're a military family, if you don't know already, so we move every 2 to 3 years, whether we want to or not. And I was very sad to move here. I wasn't used to the weather. Is it possible to not like the sun as much as I do? We did move to Sun City, which is El Paso's nickname, and it's just sunny too often. I like the rain. I like it cold. I like to wear my hand knits. Like right now I kind of feel like I'm sweating because inside the house is 68 degrees, probably a little higher because the sun is out and it is warm outside. So I probably use my knitting and my crafting a little bit for, not a little bit, a lot of it for dealing with those emotions and being anxious for things such as like when the kids are sick and the depression of having to move and losing all of my friends and having to make all new friends. So I think I'm going to slow down this year. I had the plan on Ravelry. You can set a challenge for yourself, and I put myself down for 50 projects. I've only finished 2, and I think that might be a little too much because if I did 48, then that would, 48 divided by 12, would be 4 projects a month. I've done 2 so far, and this almost started before the new year. So I think I might bump it down to finishing 3 projects a month, so that would give me 36 instead, and I think that would be a much more doable plan. So, and it also depends because I did some dishcloths, and those count as like one thing. So I might bump that down. I might do somewhere in the middle between 36 and 48, but I don't think I'm gonna stick with 50. Especially with moving, I still have to, my class started today, so I can renew my teaching license. So I might adjust that after January. We'll see what I get done for this month, and then I can make it less or make it more. 50 was like a good number since I did 68 this year. So let's jump straight into finished objects. I have to flip back to my other notes now that I gave you guys all my obsessive numbers from last year. So 16 miles. I don't think I even walked 16 miles in 2017. One of my resolutions. We don't do resolutions. I just do loose goals to move more this year. Okay, finished objects. Let's start with the one that I'm wearing. This is the Bulky Ease by Alicia Plummer. And I did this in some Araucania Bulky. I believe it's been discontinued. I will have to double check on Ravelry. I got this yarn in a D-stash on Facebook where somebody was selling 9 skeins of it, which would give me plenty for a sweater. But I still have 3 skeins left. I still have 300 grams left of this yarn, and I'm not really quite sure what to do with it. Which, when I picked the pattern, I was actually thinking I was going to be playing yarn chicken because I had 1,200-ish yards, and my size would require 1170. But I still have 300 grams left, which gives me more than 300 yards. So I don't know what happened. The pattern calls for a US size 11, and I used a US 10 because the 11 made a very airy fabric that I was worried with the bulk of the sweater that the lack of tightness in the stitches, the loose gauge would have made it droop or made it sag after wearing for a while. And I was a little worried that the size 10 would make the sweater too small, because my bust size is in between usually what pattern the designers make. Like, it's 39 inches and then it jumps to 44. I'm a 40-inch bust, like maybe even like 40, almost 41. So I'm always in between. And this sweater is supposed to fit with 2 to 5 inches of positive ease, so a little looser. Now, if you saw the picture, this neckline originally sat straight up, very Victorian-esque, but when I blocked it, it relaxed very nicely. And I did not do a crochet chain. I did a 3-stitch I-cord instead for the drawstring. I'm probably not going to move these very much. I think they're just going to be there as a design element and go from there. Now, I talked about this in a previous episode where the skeins were very different from the 1st to the 9th. So I had 9 very different skeins, and I had to try to plan so that it would blend as best as possible. Everything blended really well except for a little bit on the sleeves. You can see where I joined for the sleeve, and then I faded, like I alternated a few rows to get into the arm, but you can see a big difference between this and this. This matches the bottom of the sweater much better, but I did the same on both arms. So goal is kind of what looks like right now. So you can kind of see it fades, but if I were to stand up, which I can try to do really quick, the bottom of the sweater was done with the yarn that was here. I kind of wanted a contrasting string to go here, and the neck was done in a completely different skein than the body. This one had the most purple and blue. This was kind of like the in-between, and then the bottom, I'll stand up super quick, is very pink. I can't really scooch back because then I'll bump into the wall. So I'll put a little picture up so you can see from the top to the bottom. The top of the sweater is much more purple than the bottom. The bottom is very pink. So, but it was a really great knit, very quick and easy. I used 9 skeins, so I think I did my math. It used 771 yards of bulky weight yarn. So my sweater only weighed 584 grams. And I had a lot more than that. So I really like it. I'm just wishing it were going to be warm or cold enough to wear it. I might get to wear it Tuesday or Wednesday, but if we're going to be moving, I don't want to be wearing my nice hand knit sweater to be moving to the new house. So we'll see. If not, I can wear it next season. It's not like hand knits. If it's not going to get worn a lot, it's not going to get worn out, right? That's kind of what I figured. So that was my first finished object of 2018. Very happy to have it done. It fits so well. And I think I might want to make another one in a different weight, because I know she has it in worsted weight, and I think she even came out with one in fingering weight, which that would be the one I would want to make for living here in El Paso. My second finished object, I did not get to show this on my last one because I hadn't cast it on yet, but I started and finished a hat. I have had this yarn in my stash since October of 2014. I bought it at a little shop in North Carolina called All Things by Hand in Fayetteville. I'm not even sure if it's still there, but it's blue sky alpaca in the color papaya. It is a 50-50 alpaca silk blend, and I made the Making a Memory hat by the Plucky Knitter. It's a nice lacy hat. It is a 6-round repeat with 10 rows of decreasing up here, which, by the way, I had to switch to some clover DPNs, and after working with my Chiaogus, I was so mad. The needles were so blunt. I couldn't do the double decreases. Like, I had to, instead of pulling 2 stitches and passing them over, I had to pull each individual stitch over. So I haven't woven in the ends because I'm a little scared to block it. This hat barely used into the second skein. They only come in 50 gram skeins. I think I did 1 lace repeat and all the decreases on a second skein. Everything else is in a first. So it is a very, very slouchy hat. And I even took the recommendation after reading the project pages for this pattern to take out one of the lace repeats, and now I wish I had taken out 2 because it's very slouchy, and I'm worried if I block it, it's going to get worse. So you can see it comes in nicely with the decreases. How do you figure out how to decrease lace without losing the pattern? I mean, I'm sure there's like some actual math to it and figuring it out, but I'm worried that if I block this, it's going to be incredibly slouchy. And right now it stays. But I was talking to my friend Lauren, the wool pickle. I've mentioned her many a times on the podcast before, and she always reminds me about steam blocking. How come I always forget about steam blocking? I always wet block things, so it just never crosses my mind to just pull out the iron and use the steam function on it. Hello? Or just like spritzing it and then doing it that way, because hats don't get dirty unless like you drop them or, you know, you wear them for days you don't wash your hair. So, but I'm glad I got it done. I'm trying to use up some of my heavier weight yarns, which is proving to be quite difficult. So I have a lot of DK weight yarns. This is a sport weight yarn that, like I said, I've had in my stash for 3.5 years before I cast it on. Whoopsies. But now I don't know what to do with the rest because I have maybe 40 grams left of it. Can I use alpaca silk for socks? Will the silk make it strong or will the alpaca make it weak? Let me know if you know. I've only knit socks out of wool and nylon blends. It could be a good experiment because I have some sport weight yarn that I made some really high socks with that I still have some left. I could make some shorty socks if I can use this for cuffs, heels, and toes. Maybe. But second finished object of 2018. Just hasn't been blocked or woven in ends or anything. But it was fairly simple. I finished it in 3 days. I cast it on Thursday, Wednesday, and then finished it yesterday. So nice and done. Add it to my hat box. The next finished object is a half finished object, and it is my Speckled space socks in my Mothy and the Squid yarn. Isn't this beautiful? I've had Mothy and the Squid yarn in my stash for quite a while. I bought it in 2016, well, like a year and a half. And the Speckled space pattern is a free pattern on Ravelry. It is a very simple chart that includes a 1/1 cable, which I did my first cabling without a cable needle, and my first Fish Lips Kiss heel. I've had that pattern in my library for about a year and a half, and I didn't want to be bothered with reading something. So I just kept doing my short row heel, but look at how nice and clean that is. So much better than like the wraps that you see when you do a wrap and turn. But I think I did a little too far back. I did my cardboard cutout foot and I, found where I was supposed to start the heel and everything. And I made sure to like not stretch the sock when I put it on my little cardboard cutout. But I still think I could have probably done it maybe 3 rows sooner. Like 3 rows not a big deal, but if I do that on my second sock, then I'm gonna have to adjust the length of this because I didn't do the repeats on the back of the chart on the back of the sock because I really wanted to see the rainbow when I was knitting this. So I only did the pattern on the front of the sock. I haven't started the second one yet though. See if I can. So it's just a very plain, not plain, but very simple little slip stitch pattern inside these V's with some cabling on the top. Speckled space socks are a free pattern on Ravelry. So these are my pattern socks for January. I still have to knit one more. Let's show you the Mothy and the Squid in the cake. It's so cool. I want to get some more of this yarn, but last time I checked her shop, she didn't have any of this kind of yarn. She had a lot of squid inspired yarn, which I think is really cool, and octopus's yarn. So she'll take pictures of these sea creatures, and she makes skeins of yarn that look like it, and it's so cool. I definitely want to buy some more of this. I just don't know if ordering from Britain or if I want to order from Paratzenvola in Germany, if I'm going to get hit with customs fees. And when I messaged Paratzenvola on, I think I messaged her through Etsy, she wasn't sure of the answer. I could always just try a small order, you know, after July 1st when I can buy stuff again, to see if I would get hit with any customs fees. I never order a ridiculous amount of yarn anyways. So those are all of my finished objects for right now. And I want to talk about something that I'm going to end up frogging. And I haven't frogged it yet because I wanted to show it. I've had these 3 yarns in my stash. 2 of them since last year. John bought me these alpaca with a twist, 100% baby alpaca, in these 2 colors and in a very bright hot pink color. And he bought me 3 balls of each, so 330 yards of these 2 colors. And then my mother-in-law bought me some 100% alpaca Andy and Son off of Amazon. 3 balls is $28, I believe, with Prime shipping, so you don't have to pay shipping. If you have Prime, you just have to pay the tax for whatever state you live in. Oh, this is 100% baby alpaca too. So I had this gray and I had these 2 colors, and I was planning on doing the Doo-Wop shawl by Lisa Hans. It was in my Make 9 picture that I posted on Instagram, which if you want to find me on Instagram or Ravelry, it is 4knitsakes. So I did the entire first part of the shawl. I've done a Lisa Hans shawl before, and the 3 that I have done all start the same. It just depends on whether this part is in stockinette or garter. And as soon as I got to the stripes, I knew I was going to have to rip it out, because I like this contrast, but I feel these 3 colors just they're not knitting well together. So I've decided, after I did a couple of stripes, and I even did a swatch of doing this turquoise, this bright teal, turquoise teal, as the main color here, and then striping the gray and this cornflower blue, but there wasn't enough contrast between the gray and the cornflower blue to make it work. So I'm scrapping it. I'm using the yarn for other things, which I will talk about I've gotten a lot of dream knitting planned. So I have plans for the blue and the cornflower blue and the bright blue for a cowl, but I will talk about that. But that is getting frogged, and I'm kind of sad about it, because it was like 2 or 3 days worth of work, and then I'm just gonna rip it out. Hopefully that alpaca rips out well, because my next work in progress does not rip well, because I made mistakes and I had to frog back. And that would be my multi-directional scarf, which is in a handmade project bag that I made myself. This one's also a handmade one for me too. As soon as I can get my sewing machine up, I have some bags that I have to make for some people. So what I did, this yarn, if you knit with this yarn, it does not frog well, and it's super itchy because you get all the little fuzzies and stuff on you. So as soon as I pull it out, I always have to scratch my nose. So I'm making the multi-directional scarf. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. I did mine on size 5 needles with 70 stitches. You can change the stitch count depending on how wide or how skinny you want the scarf. So I haven't gotten very far, but I was working on this part, and I told myself I'm gonna knit until I finish all of this light blue yarn right here. And I was knitting, but I completely forgot to do the knit through the front and back loop at the beginning of the round. So my scarf started doing this. And I noticed maybe like 10 rounds in, so I had to rip it out. This yarn is super fuzzy. So when I went to go pull it out, it kept catching on itself, and it splits very easily. So this is not a project that I enjoy taking out, but I will probably enjoy it when I'm done with it, because it's really nice and soft. The colors are really pretty. I like how the short rows separate the striping, because I like stripes on socks. I'm not big on stripes in in other pieces. Like, I'm not really a big fan of how this striped here, but it's on kind of a slouchy neck, so I don't notice it. If I don't like it, I'll gift it. I've gotten into the mind frame I'm going to be gifting a lot this year. I am going to be a selfish knitter, of course, to knit a few things for myself, but I will be gifting, and this might be gifted to like my dad or my father-in-law. But I just want to talk about my love for project bags that don't have zippers for a second. Disregard all the fact that I don't clip all my ends and stuff when I'm sewing, but I like these cam snaps. I bought like a set on Amazon for 20 bucks, and my yarn does not stick. It doesn't get caught in anything. I'm not having to pull it out of the little zipper pull. Like on this, it doesn't happen on this one so much, but I have some that have a larger pull on it, and then the yarn gets stuck in this part right here. And if I'm not careful, then it's going to tear. It'll rip. With this, I don't have to worry about it. And I boxed out the bottom just a little bit. I probably could have boxed it out more. It would have been a shorter bag, but it would have been wider on the bottom. But I'll remember that for next time. And then I can close up one snap. If this was smaller, I could put it on my wrist and knit from the bag. Or if the bag wasn't so heavy, if I had a lighter project in it. So I have some plans to make some smaller bags. And maybe trying to do some origami bags or the little pull-through bags. I have a project in one somewhere, but since I'm half packed today, I don't know where everything is. Now, my last working project is my cross stitch, which is a little messy right now. I ordered a Q-snap frame from Amazon, and they only sent me 2 of the 4 brackets. So that's supposed to show up tomorrow. But I don't know if I showed this last time, but I took one of my old needle gauges. I got this one from Stephen and Penelope because I liked the roundness, and it works out perfectly for holding all of my threads. They're all pre-cut to be a good length, so I'm not getting a lot of knots. And then if I pull out a strand or a set of 6 strands, then I can put my extras here. So super smart. And I just use painter's tape to put the numbers so I don't forget. BB-8 only has this many threads, so I'm not having to keep track of a whole lot. It wouldn't work obviously for larger projects. Now I also got a needle minder. I got 3 from Flying Frog Stitchery. She is in Missouri, I believe. And I had to get my a little Boston Terrier, and I have 2 more. She sent an extra one. It was a little cat needle minder. It looks like a little what do you call those? Like house butlers, I guess. But I got 2 little Boston Terriers, and she sent an extra little cat. And this is what I have done. I'm probably not doing this in ways that you're supposed to. Actual people that have done cross stitch for a lot of their lives would probably cringe. I pick a color and I go back and forth, usually in rows, until I run out of thread. And then sometimes I pick up the same color and I keep going. But most of the time I get bored with one color, so I'm like, okay, let's just do the light gray now. Well, let's work on some white now. So I'm trying to keep the back pretty. So far I'm doing a pretty decent job. My ends are a little long right now, but I think before I frame it, I'm going to probably snip the ends. I was using a hoop before. I'm not a fan of the hoop, and I'm hoping the Q-snap will make it more enjoyable. I just got an 8x8 inch one. So, because this is only going to be 5x7 when it's done. And I tripped into Joann the other day and I bought thread and some Aida. I know I was saying Aida like it was the musical. So sorry about that. Some more fabric in 28 stitch even weave in like a sand color for a sweater's, like an ugly sweater cross stitch, and for a anniversary present for Jonathan, which I will share in a different podcast. But here's BB-8, working on him. The boys are all, you're almost done, you're almost done. I was like, no, I'm not even close. I'm working on it little by little. I usually do stitching on Sundays and Mondays, and then work on socks on Tuesdays, which, oh, that's another work in progress. My on-the-go sock. So this is just some sport weight opal I've had in my stash. I have knit a pair of shorties with this yarn so far. I'm doing 48 stitches, size 2 needles, US 2 needles, not 2 millimeters, and just doing a 5x1 rib on the front. And I'm knitting all the way to the top until I get to closer to the end of the ball. I'm gonna have to unwind this and cake it so I can work from the middle. So I'm going to cut in a heel. I'm hoping that because it's sport weight yarn and I can see the stitches a little better, that I can do a true afterthought heel. I will be following the Kirby Werby tutorial on YouTube to do it. So wish me luck. I'm hoping it'll be okay. If not, it's just yarn. It'll be a lesson in learning how to do things, and sometimes if you fail, it's just first attempt in learning for fail. F-A-I-L, first attempt in learning. So hopefully this is what sits in my purse all the time, so whenever I need something that I don't need to count rows or do math on or follow a pattern or a chart, this goes in my bag. And it's in a little zip up bag that I made myself with some stash fabric I've had, some retro fabric my mother gave me, just some little strawberries. And I did the bottom wrong. I meant to box it, but I completely folded it wrong and I never bothered to fix it. So there's that. But these are just my on-the-go socks. So that is all I have for my finished objects and my works in progress. Now I have gone through Ravelry and I've added things to my queue based on what is in my stash and what I plan to knit with that yarn that's in my stash. So I know it's episode 22 and I've been around for a year, but I am going to do my first knit along because last year I knit only from my stash from January through July. And I'm doing the same thing this year. Until July 1st, I'm not buying any yarn, so I'm trying to be very mindful of what projects I'm planning on knitting, what I have already, and of course you want to knit things that you like, but I want to do a stash busting knit along. So it's going to be knitting only things from your stash. The requirement, it has to be at least 50 grams. So, you know, knit yourself a pair of socks or sweaters, obviously, but anything that's really, really small, unless you're making multiple of the same thing, like if you're making multiple ornaments, then you can use that as long as all of them add up to 50 grams. So in interest of how I like to live minimally, and knitting from my stash helps me stay minimal as far as my yarn stash goes, I'll open up a thread in the Ravelry group. Hopefully some more people will join. If not, it'll just be a fun little knit along. You guys can just participate at your leisure. You have until July the 1st, so you have plenty of time to find something from your stash and knit. There will be an FO thread, and I will open up a chatter thread if anybody wants to talk about trying to find projects. Say you have some yarn in your stash that's been sitting there since October of 2014, and you want to find a project that you can knit with X amount of grams in this weight, or you're looking for a cowl pattern, so you guys can chit chat about different kinds of patterns that you are finding on Ravelry to help inspire others. And then the FO thread obviously will just be finished objects only. This will be very relaxed, at your own pace. Share things as you want. I won't share my FOs because I don't want to skew the numbers in the FO thread, but feel free to post in the chatter thread as much as you want. And for the prizes, I haven't quite figured out what prizes there will be. It might be some yarn for my stash, whatever I haven't knit by July 1st. And then I'm going to make a bag or two to also give away. I know my sewing isn't perfect, but I can make perfectly functional project bags, and I really like these snap bags. And I may just wait until the knit along is over, so then I can make a size bag that the winner would prefer to have. Plus it will give me some time to fix up my sewing machine to make sure it's working properly. So we'll use the hashtag 4, like the number 4, KS stash bust KAL 2018. I know it's a lot, but there were already hashtags on Instagram for stash bust knit along for other years, and I didn't want to step on any toes for anybody that has done this sort of knit along in the past, and I wanted it to be specifically for knitsakes. I'll put the little thing down at the bottom, and then the nice thing about Instagram is you can follow hashtags now, so it's really easy to, like the Yarn Hoarder's doing a dishcloth knit along for the whole entire year of 2018. And you can double dip. You can use your FOs for this one as well as any other knit alongs that are going on with any other podcasts that you may listen to or participate in. So pull out your stash, find some things to knit. And if you go on my Ravelry queue, you will see 17 queued projects that I have yarn for. Some are for pattern socks that I'm planning on doing the once a month, but a lot of them are cowls. So it's going to be the year of cowls and socks because I don't have a lot of sweaters quantities of yarn. And I'm not a teeny tiny person where sweaters quantities are inexpensive. So even if I'm buying knit picks, it's still going to cost me like $36 at least for a sweaters quantity and fingering weight. But I've written down some of the cowls that I have. One that I am doing that starts on Tuesday with Mary Annarella of Lyrical Knit. She's doing a mystery knit along. It's called Till the Cowls Come Home, where you use 4 different colors, only about 35 grams of each color. And she's releasing the clues the 16th and 19th, and then I think 3 more clues after that. So I'm doing that, and that's going to be fingering weight. I will show that next time. Like I said, my whole craft room has been packed, and it's sitting downstairs ready to get loaded in the morning. And then I have the Ciao, see, like ciao in Italian, cowl by Greta Menson. I'll put like little pictures, like right here would be the perfect spot to put those pictures, right? And then the Downriver Cowl by Joan Forgione. And then I'm using the numbers from the Windshift Cowl by Stephen West to do a plain, kind of like sockhead cowl, but in DK weight instead. And then I'm doing a mosaic cowl for Diamonds in the Rough by Debbie Lake. And then the 3-color cashmere cowl by Joji Locatelli. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cowls right now, and I'm sure I might come up with more. And I have my Make 9 still. I plan on doing the walk along tee. I plan on doing the palette cardigan instead of a stripy pullover. And then I have, what else is going on that I have? The Zweig, but I don't have the yarn for that. Campside shawl. Doo-wop has been put on hold until I can find a better yarn combination. But I'm very, if I put it out into the world that I want to make it, then I feel the obligation to make it. And I know I really shouldn't do that, but I put my Make 9 out there. Most of it was stuff in the queue anyways, and just the doo-wop just didn't happen. But I like Lisa Hahn's designs with the mosaic. I've done the Walk in the Woods shawl, and I was hoping to do this shawl, but my yarn combination just isn't going to work. So I have to find something different. Hopefully soon. I want to use that baby alpaca. That's what I want to do. So I need to find something that'll go with this gray without it being white. I don't want to use white or cream. I want to use something different. But then I need a 3rd color. I'll have to sit on it. It'll probably come to me one day when I'm just like sitting or sleeping or something. Does anybody else just lay their head down and then all they do is think about their queue and their wish list and all the other things that you want to knit? Because that's me. I've had some insomnia recently. And then I'm doing another mystery knit along with the Knitting Guild, but I don't know what it's going to be. We haven't even been told what it's going to make. I was just given the first clue, and I am knitting it on this yarn right here that I showed last time. Some Fibra Natura Lima, and I'm knitting them on some straight needles because it's a 3-month knit along. And I don't want my good needles to be taken up by this. It's only being knit across 46 stitches, so it makes me think that is going to be a scarf. And with the level, like the knitting abilities of the ladies in the group, I can't imagine that it's going to be super difficult, but it definitely involves cables. So I get to practice my cabling without a cable needle, which is exciting. And speaking of my knitting guild, I was lucky enough that one of the ladies had a pair or a set of the Addy Flexi Flips, or in Germany they're called the Crazy Trio. And I was able to knit a little bit on a sock that she had started with them, and she had them in US 2, I believe. I forget. But I was able to knit a couple rounds. A few things that I did not like about them were I was always checking to make sure that I was knitting with the sharp side. There is a sharp side, and then there is a more dull side to the needles. I'll put a little picture up if you don't know what flexi flips are, or crazy Chiro, wherever you live in the world and what they're called. But there's a sharp side and a dull side to these needles, and I was always having to check, and I kept thinking, I'm like, over time, I think if I use 3 seconds of my time to figure out which needle to knit with, I'm wasting X amount of time over the course of knitting one sock, just trying to figure out which needle to knit with. Then you also run into the problem that I also have issues with double point needles. I drop them constantly. And it's because out of habit of magic loop or 9-inch circulars, you're not dropping anything. Or if you do drop something, it's connected. So I've done that where I've been knitting with double points or straight needles, and I drop the needle without even thinking. And then I have to be like, oh yeah, I'm not knitting on circulars right now. So I'm bound to drop one at some point. It was a little awkward where when I would get to the end of one of the needles, the other needle would be poking me in the hand. I was able to do it where when I was knitting across, the backside needle was kind of nested right here in between my thumb and my first finger, so that was okay, but when I got to the end, the other side of the needle was in my way. So are they cool? Yeah. If you like double point needles, you would probably really love them, but only knitting like those 5 or 6 rounds, I don't see myself loving them enough to own a pair, to own a set, because they're not pairs. They come in a set of 3. So it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting, it's new, but just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. Unless you're Barney Stinson, new is always better. If you're a How I Met Your Mother fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. So just because it's new, it doesn't mean it's something that I have to have. That also kind of goes into my minimal frame of mind that if something's working, then why do I need something new? If it's broke, don't fix it. So that's kind of what I kept thinking about as I'm knitting with them. I was like, I have a lot of sock needles. Like maybe if all my other sock needles were full, this would be kind of cool to knit on. But I don't need a $24 set of needles if I like my other ones. And then I can always buy pretty much 2 pairs of ChiaoGoo fixed circulars for the price of 1. And if I buy the fixed circulars, I can buy them in 40 inches and I can knit 2 socks at a time. Whereas on the Addy Flexi Flips, I can't do that. My other friend Helene, who's also in the Knitting Guild, she just got some of hers in some larger sizes. Now I think it could be cool for hats because I knit this on a 16-inch circular, and I feel like I was always stretching the needles, or I was having to hold them slightly different to make sure that, I don't know, it just felt really awkward knitting on 16 inches. I'm so used to magic loop. Even like 9-inch circulars felt more natural than the 16-inch circulars. And I've noticed that with hats, that the 16-inch circulars just always seem to stretch funny, or I'm having to hold the angle of the needles is very small versus holding them out like this. So I might knit, Helene said I could borrow a set of the Flexi Flips to try to knit a hat, so now I need to find a hat pattern. So we'll see what they look like, because hers are in the larger sizes. She says she doesn't knit socks very often, but she knits a lot of hats in and shawls, I guess. So that's very nice of her to lend me those needles to try out. But those are kind of my thoughts on it. Like, they're cool, but I think I like magic loop better. Maybe even double pointed needles better. I do have a set of double pointed needles that I'm probably not going to use. They're sitting in this sock bag, but they're nice to have on hand. These have my 1.5s in the front, and then the zeros are back there. Right? You find out what works, and then you just kind of want to stick with it. So that is all of the knitting content / cross stitch content for this week. So if you just came for that, then you are more than welcome to head on out and go about your business. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you want to hear a little bit about our lives and a little funny story about my son, then you might want to stick around just because it's a really funny story. So thank you so much for stopping by and listening to me rabble on about knitting and yarn and cross stitch and all of my fun little crafty things that are in my interest right now. I'm starting to get really hot in this sweater though. I hope my face doesn't look too red on camera, but okay, sorry. If you're sticking around, thank you so much for hanging out a little bit longer with me. And if you're heading out, then bye. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you next time. We'll continue on with a funny story. So my sons went to the store, and I had to get some of those Thermacare patches, like those little, like the heat pads that stick to your body so you don't have to sit down and use a heating pad. So I was getting some for my shoulder because I was having some issues with my shoulder, and I was getting some menstrual patches, you know, because being a woman sucks sometimes and you need those things without being confined to a couch. So we went to the exchange, and I went to where the Thermacare patches are, and they're on the bottom shelf, and I went down there to like start pulling a bunch of boxes that I needed for a couple things. And my son Oliver, who just turned 4, he looks at the picture, which if I remember, I will put a little picture in here of what the menstrual pad ones look like, or the menstrual patches look like. And he goes, "Mom, you need a heat pad for your penis?" And he said it fairly loudly. Now, I don't think anybody was standing close enough to listen, but of course I bust out laughing, and I had to explain to him that I do not have a penis, and we don't use that word out in public unless it's necessary, and that no, you don't need a heat pad for yours. It was like, one of those things that like only kids could say this, because as an adult, you would look like you have gone bananas. And Levi got a very good laugh out of it too, because then he was like, "No, Mom doesn't have one of those." But the picture of because it shows you where on the body it goes. And so you see like a woman's legs, they're crossed over, and then the pad is sitting over where her uterus would be, because that's the muscle that makes life miserable during that week, right? Okay, I probably should have done a little warning before I told that story. So if you're a little squeamish about those things, I'm really sorry. But it was hilarious, and everybody that I told got a huge laugh out of it, because only kids would say stuff like that in public in a loud voice. But that was just like our funny story for the time being. A lot of other fun stuff has happened. I've been doing a 1 second a day video, and it's always fun to go back and look through, even just like the last 2 weeks since January has started. I use leap seconds, I believe, but there's also 1 second a day where you just film a little 1 second clip of your day, and then it compiles all of your clips in chronological order from beginning to end of what you've recorded. So sometimes it's like the kids eating ice cream yesterday when we were at the exchange, or Lucy running around the backyard or something like that. So at the end of every month, I think I'll share that on Instagram, and then it'll just be really fun at the end of the year to see that little 1 second, like see the kids grow up over the year, things that have changed, you know, moving to a new house and stuff like that. It'll just be really fun at the end of the year, because what, 365 seconds Although some days I've had more than one where I'll put like a group of pictures together and it ends up being more than a second. So you're gonna have like a few minutes worth just compiled into your whole year, which I think is really cool. So if you haven't heard of that app but you're interested in it, you can get it from the iTunes Apple store. The Leap Second is free unless you want to add music or export in a fancier file size, or if you want to add in videos for days that don't count to that video, like that day. So say like you took a video on January 9th, but you wanted it for January 8th for some reason, like if you missed a day, that costs extra money. But if you want like the full version of Leap Second, I think it's only $5, $4.99. So, but I think that's really cool, and the kids really enjoy watching just to see, because sometimes they just are silly just for the video, which is really cute. And then we've just been getting ready to move. So this morning was a matter of just moving things down to the first floor from the second floor to get it out of the house as quickly as possible tomorrow. We're trying to move everything over the course of the week. Then the cleaners come, the carpets are cleaned, we do the walkout with a rental company, and then we'll be situated hopefully in the new house soon. I had to update Levi's school information, change his bus color, and all this other stuff. So everything's pretty much been taken care of. I'm like looking around, everything's so empty because everything's off the walls now. Hopefully I'll find a new place to podcast at the new house. The sun is in a different spot in the house. It's from the front to the back of the house, whereas in the house I'm in now, the sun's on the back side of the house all day. So I have to figure out a new place to go. But I think I'm going to cut myself off for now. I was hoping it would be a short episode, but I was a little chatty today, which is okay, I guess. I hope you guys enjoyed watching what you saw, and thank you so much for stopping by. Tell your friends, knit your stash, enjoy life. I'm trying to do that more this year. Be more present, move more, do more, learn to like El Paso. I'm working on it. I'm trying really hard. I met some really great people here, so that really helps as well. So thank you so much for stopping by. Find me on social media, send me some messages, just say hi. I want online friends. So yeah, I hope you guys keep your needles moving. I got that phrase from a friend in my knitting guild, and I think I'm going to use it from now. So keep your needles moving, fiber friends, and have a really great week. Bye.